Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Opening Up podcast. This is your host, Christy Rose, and I am extremely excited for this episode. Today's special guest, August Pullman, is a very, very special guest because he's actually the youngest we've ever had. He's also gone through a lot more than anyone could possibly imagine for such a young kid. And that's what we're here to talk about. Without further ado, August Pullman, everyone. Hi, August. It's so nice to meet you.
Hi, Christy. It's nice to meet you too.
I've heard a lot about you, and I feel like a lot of people don't understand you.
Yeah, well, when people look at me, they just assume that they know me and my whole life story. They start to pity me and treat me like that boy with a weird face. Well, I think that today's the day we let people know who you really are. So let's get started, because we've got a lot to uncover with you for the next few minutes. How do you feel when you go to the park and the other kids seem to back away from you and whisper?
I feel uncomfortable. It reminds me that I'm not like all the other kids. Sometimes when I walk around, I forget about what my face looks like. But when I see the whispers and stares, it reminds me all over again that I'm not seen as a normal boy. So I heard that when you were younger, your sister Via's friend gave you an astronaut helmet for Halloween. It was only supposed to be a Halloween costume, but you wore it for a few months. Why is that?
I realized on Halloween day that the other kids and parents weren't staring at me in shock.
It built up my confidence and made me realize that if the other boys and girls see me for who I was and not for what I'd look like, that I'd have a lot of friends. And so I wore the helmet for a couple months. So it's an insecurity issue. I mean, yeah, the thing is, I never felt much different from the other kids. And that was until the other kids made me feel different. The other kids made you feel different. How did they do that? Well, as you said, it started off with the whispers and stares. As time progressed, I started to realize that kids were actually keeping their distance away from me at playgrounds, and that toddlers would ask their parents, questions about my face. Usually their parents would scold them right after that. Do you think that those actions made them rude or curious?
It's not rude.
The problem is that when they feel like they've gotten an answer, they'd walk away and not even consider playing with me. They don't think to try to have a normal conversation with me, and that's when it starts to hurt. Sometimes I'd feel as if the only conversation I'd have with another child would be about my face. So your life changed drastically when you started going to school. You started to develop a few friendships and a lot of drama started going on. Can you explain to the listeners how some of those friendships came about and how you maintain those friendships? To be honest, when I started going to Beecher Prep, I was sure that I wasn't going to have friends. And I was 100% sure that I was going to get stares and that the word would get around pretty quickly that I was going to the school. On the first day of school, I sat down by myself, which I was okay with. Because I know I eat kind of strange. The way my mouth is shaped makes eating very messy for me, and I don't really want anyone to watch that. But it didn't matter. People were watching anyways, just from a distance, like I was an animal. On the first day of school, Summer came up to me and she'd introduced herself to me. In the beginning, I thought that Mr. Tushman had sent her my way, but as time went on, I realized that she was an actual genuine friend. Jack Will, on the other hand, he was nice to me every now and then back in those days. We for sure had a lot of similarities, but he was in a popular boys group and I wasn't. He let those guys control our friendship, and he let them be the reason we stopped being friends for a while. I don't introduce just anyone to my family, and I don't bring just anyone to my house. But I did all that with him, and he betrayed me. But he gained my trust again eventually. Now, you say that he betrayed you. How did he do that? On Halloween Day, which happens to be my favorite day of the year, I went to school in a full costume. No one recognized me, which, to be honest, felt really good. But that was until I went to class. Jack Will is in all of my classes, and I guess he didn't realize that I was in class because of my mask. I sat down at a desk near him anyways, and I overheard him saying some horrible stuff about me. He was speaking to Julian, this popular rich guy that bullies me. In that moment, I felt so confused and hurt. I'd never been betrayed by someone so close to me. I rarely even let people get close to me. I left the school immediately. I couldn't handle the pain that I was feeling. I wanted to stop going, and I was ready to go back to homeschooling, but my sister Via convinced me to stay. She said that I hadn't been a quitter and that I'd always been a fighter, so I listened to her. Time really healed everything for Jack, Will, and I. Wow, you are such a forgiving person, Auggie. Now, I want to get to know more about your personality. Are you the same person at home versus at school? Is there anything that you consciously change about yourself when you're in a public setting? I never really change who I am. Sometimes I just filter my personality a little. What's the reason that you do that? I'm just like any 10-year-old boy. I have interests and sometimes I get really excited. Things don't really go my way though. If I get really excited and jump around, it attracts attention to myself. I feel like any attention is bad attention. So when I'm out, I stay quiet and I keep my head down. Luckily, it doesn't always have to be that way. When I'm at home, I'm always speaking and telling people how I feel because my family is really supportive. So I take it that family is very important to you. Family is the most important thing to me in the world. My family's always been there during every single surgery and they always help me to recover. I never feel judged when I speak to my family, and they're always understanding of my situation. Honestly, it was my choice whether I went to school or not. I'm the one that decided to make the jump. My parents would have understood if I said no because they know how people feel about me. I think a lot of people don't understand how brave you are. I don't think people understand how much it takes out of you to go through 27 surgeries and for you to still want to go to the park and have fun. And I don't think people understand how much hope you have in your body, knowing that people are going to stare at you every time that you step out your house, and for you to still to try make a friend. Thank you. I agree. Now, do you think that other kids deal with similar struggles? A lot of people see me as misunderstood, which is true. But that doesn't mean that kids that are considered to be normal aren't misunderstood. Jack Will, for example. Before he became friends with me, he was in the Popular Boys group, which was ran by Julian. Every kid in that group is rich, and because we're at Beecher Prep, which is a private school, they acted a certain way. But Jack Will, he wasn't poor, but let's just say he was very, very far from rich. He had to keep a lot of secrets from them. He was a lot different with me than he was with the other guys. What I want people to take from this episode is that you should always open yourself up to people and be ready to accept others. If that's how we start to think from a young age, like my age, I think that the world will become a better place. That was very well said. Now, I know a lot of adults listen to my podcast, and I know a lot of you guys are parents. If you are a child and you're listening, I hope that you really do listen to Auggie, his advice and his story. But if you're not a child, I want you to teach yourself and other people around you to be accepting of others. There's no way that love will spread out if you're not trying to understand people and if you're not welcoming of others. Auggie's story isn't significant because of how other people view him. It's significant because of how he views others. Thank you so much, Auggie, and I hope you come by soon. Alright, thanks for having me. Bye, guys.